Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Fumi, and in today's video we're going to be making overalls for a 3-year-old. Alright, so here's everything that we need. So first thing I'm doing is making sort of like a flat sketch of what this overall is supposed to look like. I actually haven't ever made this before, so I just need like a visual of what I'm going to do first of all. So this is like just a very rough sketch. It doesn't have to be extra. So starting off with my basic bodice pattern, I'm just going to use that to cut the pattern for the upper part of this. So starting from up here, I'm going to come down just a bit. Like I said before, I haven't actually done this before, so a lot of this is going to be trial and error. So I'm just drawing a straight line slightly below the actual neckline, and as you can see, the armhole is a bit different from what we have here. It comes in a bit more, so I'm just going to mark about 2 inches from where the armhole actually is, and then I'm going to draw a slightly curved line all the way down to the side. So I'm first using my ruler. If you have a French curve, please use it at this point. So I used my ruler for a straight line first, and then I went in with my free hand to sort of do a curved line with that as my outline. And then next up, you can see that the front bodice is a bit narrow, so I'm coming in by about 2 inches, because as you can see from the flat sketch, the waist is wider, so the waist is wider than the body, so you need to come in just a bit. So I've drawn all my lines and I have the outline for my pattern, so now I'm just going to cut everything out. Alright, so I'm just taking the armhole down a bit. Yeah, and this is what I have. It looks just like what I have in my sketch, so I'm happy with this. Now for the back bodice is a little bit smaller than the one we have here, and I'm just going to draw the pattern for that one on this pattern as well, just to conserve paper and because this is a bit easier. So I came in by 2 inches at the waistline, and I went down by 1.5 inches from the neckline, and I'm just going to do sort of like a weird triangle, and there you have it. Like, that was so easy. And now I'm just folding over my fabric so I can cut out my pattern pieces on fabric. And then as you can see, I'm pinning it in place just so it doesn't move around as I cut, and then leaving 1/2 inch all around. I cut out my piece, my bodice. And now that I have this one, I'm going to use this to cut a second one, because we need to. One is going to sort of act as the lining. And there we have it. Now for that back piece, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm just going to cut out that pattern first of all, since we don't need the front pattern anymore. And then I'm going to cut out 2 pieces of this as well. I didn't realize I was out of frame here, but it's basically the same thing. 1/2 inch of sewing allowance all around and 2 pieces, and this is what we have, 2 pieces of each. Now for the pocket, I folded my fabric over by 2 inches, and then I went for a 5.5 inch height, and this is what I have. As you can see, it has this shape, so I'm just going to fold it over and give it that like angle at the bottom. So just folding it over, and then with my scissors I'm just going to cut so that I have that shape. If you want the square shape, you can just keep it as it is. So the waistline is the next thing I'm going to cut. That waistband that you can see there, there are 2 pieces, one for the front and one for the back, and each of them I'm going to cut out 2. So basically we're going to have 4 pieces, 4 strips of fabric for the waistband. So I'm marking 5.5 inches in height because I want to cut 2 of them at the same time. Just watch what I do. So I'm marking my 5.5 inches all the way down, just at different points to make sure that it is straight, and then 14 inches wide is what I'm going with. and I'm just marking everything with my chalk. You always want to make sure you mark all these points at different, mark at different points so that your lines are straight. And after connecting the dots, then you can get to cutting. So this is what I have, and I'm just going to cut the same thing here. Luckily it was exactly the amount of fabric I needed, so I just cut straight. And now we have for both the front and the back, so I'm going to fold it over. Like I said, we need 4 pieces, so I'm going to fold it over to turn these 2 pieces into 4 pieces. So you should have 4 strips of fabric just like this, 2 for the front and 2 for the back. And we also have our pockets here, so our overalls are coming together. It's looking really good. Now for the pants, the 2 legs, I'm just folding over my fabric first of all. For me, I'm going for like full pants, but if you want yours to be short, then you just work with a shorter length. Like maybe you take the measurements of the child that you want to sew for, but mine is going to be long, like the pants are going to be longer, so I'm just marking my length first of all and then drawing my straight line. Next up, I'm marking a quarter of her waist measurement. And then I'm adding 2 inches of allowance. And then next up, you mark your crotch depth. And so now I have my waistline, my crotch line, and then the full length. So on that crotch line, you mark the thigh measurement divided by 2 and then add in some sewing allowance, because I want this to have a loose fit, so I'm adding about 2 inches of sewing allowance to it, because it's children's clothes, so I feel like it should have a bit more allowance. So 2 inches of sewing allowance, and just marking all of my points. And then I'm connecting from the waistline to the crotch line. And then I want it to have a bit of a pencil shape, that's the pants, but not too fitted. Like I said before, I'm going for a really loose fit, so I marked the same measurements that I marked on the crotch line at the hem, and then I also marked the midpoints, and then on each side I came in by 1.5 inches. That's the 2 points you can see me marking there. So now I'm just connecting everything together with my ruler. I came in by 1.5 inches on both sides of the hem, just to give that pencil look. And then at that crotch line, I'm just curving that area. And now I'm just cutting out everything. As you can see, just following all the lines that I already made. And then cutting this corner open. So now we have the 2 front legs. Now for the back legs, it's basically just going to be the same thing with the front legs, but we're going to leave at this inner area, we're going to leave 1 inch of sewing allowance. Like we're going to add 1 inch to that inner thigh area. If you're doing this for an adult or maybe an older child, you should use 1.5 inches instead. But this is for a 3-year-old, so 1 inch is fine. So I'm just connecting all of my points. That's after adding my 1 inch. So just connecting everything. And then now I'm just going to cut it out. So as you can see, I left 1 inch on the inner thigh, but on the outer area is the exact same thing with the front piece. And so now we have our 2 legs. Next up, we have those shoulder straps. There are 2 of them and they start from the back all the way to the front, so we need 2, but we're going to cut 4 pieces because each strap has two pieces of fabric. Just stay with me. So I'm folding over my fabric by about 5.5 inches, and then I'm just marking that. And then I'm cutting following the points I already made, so 5.5 inches, and then cutting it open as well. That's cutting it into 2 strips of fabric, and then folding it over again to cut into 4. So these are the 4 straps that we need. So 2 for each strap. It's about 15 inches in length, by the way. And so putting all the pieces that we've cut out together, this is what we have. We have our bodice, our waistband, the legs, and of course the straps as well. So as you can see, it's looking really good, but we're not done yet. So you can see that we have 2 side pockets apart from that front pocket. And speaking of the front pockets, we actually need 3 of them. So 2 at the back and 1 on the front. So you can see here I cut my 3 pieces and I'm just going to keep them aside so that we can get to the side pockets. So I'm just taking the 2 front legs and I'm just going to cut out. You can see that it sort of has like a curved quarter circle shape at the front there, so I'm going to cut that shape out. This is the shape that I'm going for. If you want something different, then you can do that. So I'm coming in at that waistline by about 4 inches. So I'm just going to mark that point, and then also coming down by 4 inches as well. So I'm just going to use my free hand to draw like the curved line to connect them, and this is what we have. So I'm cutting it out. I'm also going to keep this piece that I'm cutting out temporarily because I'm going to need it in a few minutes maybe. So this is what our front legs are looking like right now. I'm just going to keep it to the side because we'll also need it shortly. So first of all, with our front leg, we're going to cut one side of the pocket, and we're basically going to use our leg as kind of like a pattern. So just follow me. I placed it about 4 inches, and so I'm just going to follow that curve that we cut out for our pocket. I'm just going to follow that, and then just come down here. So this is the shape that we have. So we're going to need 2 of these, so I'm going to cut the second one because of the second pocket. And here they are. So now for the second part of the pocket, we need a plain rectangle shape. That's a shape without that curve. So that piece that I told you I kept from when we cut out the pocket shape from the leg, I placed it to complete the rectangle, and I'm just going to use this as a pattern. So by the time you cut it out, it should look just like this, just a rectangle basically. And this is how it's going to look when by the time it's sewn. This is how it's going to look, and that open corner there is going to be visible just like this. This is how it's going to be on the overalls. So you can see it in our sketch. And now we need a second piece of this rectangle, so we're just going to cut that out too, and here it is. And those are all of the pieces that we need to make these overalls. Tune in next week Tuesday, and I'm going to show you how to sew these overalls. This is how it turned out, by the way. So if you want to see how to make this, then kindly subscribe. You can turn on post notifications so you don't miss a single video. This is what I'm going to show you next week Tuesday, how to sew these overalls. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.